Hi everybody, I'm Sean Haywood, and I'm the product manager for the theme store here at Shopify. Today, I'll be walking you through what is the theme store, how do merchants find it, what are the main features, and how do you submit a theme. So let's dive in. What is the theme store? Well, as you can imagine, the theme store is where we host our theme portfolio. Whether it be free themes made by Shopify or paid themes made by partners like you. The theme store is where merchants go to find the theme that's best for their business, whether they be a brand new merchant looking for inspiration on what to build, or an established merchant who's looking for the theme to support their next stage of growth. We find that merchants come to the store not only to find a theme based on the features and functions that will support the best buyer experience, but also to find a theme that really will support how they want to express their brand online and make them unique. So how do merchants find the store in the first place? Well, it could start with something as simple as a search. Just searching for, hey, what industry are you in? What type of website template are you looking for? And we'll forward you to the right place on the store. If it's an existing merchant, it could be that they're already playing around with their theme and they'll discover a button to visit the theme store and experience our full portfolio. It could be that they've actually reached out to a support advisor here at Shopify to get a recommendation. Sometimes our support advisors will point them in a direction based on things like what industry the merchant is in, what size of catalog they have, and generally how they want to position their brand. And then from there, they might recommend a theme based on some of their own experience with other merchants. Merchants will also find us from marketing activities that partners like you will do. Whether it be that you're announcing your latest theme on Twitter, or just simply talking about themes in general on Reddit. You'll find that merchants will actually browse the internet and find these things themselves, all with the hopes of truly finding a unique experience to drive their brand presence online. Once a merchant arrives on the store, what are the main features they're going to find? Well, if they land on the homepage, they'll be presented with this bold carousel. From here, we highlight 6 themes that rotate every day. So basically everyone has an equal chance of getting featured in the carousel. So from here you'll be able to see, hey, here's some carousel, but also scrolling down the page, you'll see some collections. Some of these collections are things like staff picks that we choose ourselves based on certain recommendations. We do not have ads on the theme store, so there's no way to buy your way into a collection. But there's also some programmatic collections like trending this week, which will help surface things like, hey, what are the most common themes that are being installed as of the last week. It's also very common for merchants to search on the store, and they search for everything from exact theme names if they know what they're looking for already, to features within the theme, to industries, to things like, hey, I have a small catalog, for example. We know that merchants who have a small catalog versus a big one, there's often a very different browsing experience, so that can be a very important deciding factor for them. As well, a lot of merchants just like to browse. So what we've noticed is that there are 3 main parameters that we kind of... Hi everybody, I'm Sean Haywood, and I'm the product manager for the theme store here at Shopify. Today, I'll be walking you through what is the theme store, how do merchants find it, what are the main features, and how do you submit a theme? So let's dive in. What is the theme store? Well, as you can imagine, the theme store is where we host our theme portfolio. Whether it be free themes made by Shopify or paid themes made by partners like you. The theme store is where merchants go to find the theme that's best for their business, whether they be a brand new merchant looking for inspiration on what to build, or an established merchant who's looking for the theme to support their next stage of growth. We find that merchants come to the store not only to find a theme based on the features and functions that will support the best buyer experience, but also to find a theme that really will support how they want to express their brand online and make them unique. So how do merchants find the store in the first place? Well, it could start with something as simple as a search. Just searching for, hey, what industry are you in? What type of website template are you looking for? And we'll forward you to the right place on the store. If it's an existing merchant, it could be that they're already playing around with their theme and they'll discover a button to visit the theme store and experience our full portfolio. It could be that they've actually reached out to a support advisor here at Shopify to get a recommendation. Sometimes our support advisors will point them in a direction based on things like what industry the merchant is in, what size of catalog they have, and generally how they want to position their brand. And then from there, they might recommend a theme based on some of their own experience with other merchants. Merchants will also find us from marketing activities that partners like you will do. Whether it be that you're announcing your latest theme on Twitter or just simply talking about themes in general on Reddit. You'll find that merchants will actually browse the internet and find these things themselves, all with the hopes of truly finding a unique experience to drive their brand presence online. Once a merchant arrives on the store, what are the main features they're going to find? Well, if they land on the homepage, they'll be presented with this bold carousel. From here, we highlight 6 themes that rotate every day. So basically, everyone has an equal chance of getting featured in the carousel. So from here, you'll be able to see, hey, here's some carousel, but also scrolling down the page, you'll see some collections. Some of these collections are things like staff picks that we choose ourselves based on certain recommendations. We do not have ads on the theme store, so there's no way to buy your way into a collection. But there's also some programmatic collections, like trending this week, which will help surface things like, hey, what are the most common themes that are being installed as of the last week. It's also very common for merchants to search on the store, and they search for everything from exact theme names if they know what they're looking for already, to features within the theme, to industries, to things like, yeah, I have a small catalog, for example. We know that merchants who have a small catalog versus a big one, there's often a very different browsing experience, so that can be a very important deciding factor for them. As well, a lot of merchants just like to browse. So what we've noticed is that there are 3 main parameters that we kind of segment merchants into, and as a result, a lot of the faceting that we have on the store is based around those. And what those are the size of the catalog, whether it be a small catalog or a single product even, all the way up to a large catalog, as well as the industry that the merchant is in, because oftentimes the industry will dictate the features and functionality within that theme. So for example, if you're in the apparel industry, you might want to have a theme that has a sizing chart, versus if you're in the food and beverage industry, something like a nutrition table could come in more handy. So we'll find that we actually want to push merchants to the theme that actually best fits their industry. And the other one is brand position. This is a bit more subjective, but it could be things like, do you want a very bold theme, a very minimalist theme, or are you selling more commodity goods, or is it really more of a high-end experience, and things like that. With these 3 combination of things, people are able to facet into what they're looking for, and as a result, find the theme that's best for them. As well, like I mentioned, since industries are so important, we actually make that a whole menu at the top of the theme store, so you can really just filter into the themes that are best for your industry. Finally, as a merchant, if you land on a listing page of a theme that really inspires you, the first thing you'll be presented with is this hero image area. So basically, this is where we let you as a partner give a first glance of what your theme is all about. This will include the name of the theme, which is usually a very short word like this, as well as the price, which you can set is between $80 and $500, as well as a bit of a tagline that quickly describes your theme, and between 1 and 5 styles. The styles really lets you express the flexibility of your theme so that merchants can see how configurable it is. And then from there, merchants will be able to go off and try the theme, or maybe click out to view some of the support or other documentation. Further down on the listing page, we're also going to let you list out all the features and functionality of the theme. So this will be something that you'd set when submitting your theme, and then will actually be displayed very nicely on the listing page so that merchants know exactly what they're getting before they have to actually try it. Now, one thing that's very interesting on the listing page is this View Demo button. And what that launches is actually this whole demo experience. This is a very critical part of the entire store. This is where you can actually showcase a completed store featuring your theme. Now this does have to be a store that's not actually like a real store using the theme. It's one that you've made explicitly for demos. So merchants won't be able to check out on it, but they will be able to experience it from end to end. Whether that be the searching experience, the browsing, the actual shopping, all the ancillary pages like facts and contact us and whatnot. as well as the listing page of the actual individual product, and of course the checkout experience up until the point where they can actually purchase. So from here, this is where you really get to shine and show a merchant why your theme is best. Now, for every single theme, you can have up to 5 of these demo stores. They map one-to-one to the styles that you saw on the previous page. Now, another important feature that merchants turn to when making a decision on a theme is, of course, the reviews. So a review is something that after a merchant installs the theme, they can write a review onto the store and it will show up onto the listing page for that theme. Naturally, we give you the ability as a partner to respond to those reviews. Whether it be a case where you don't necessarily agree with something that the merchant has said, or maybe it's just you want to say thanks for leaving a good review to show your appreciation, you'll actually be able to engage with your customers directly on the store. So if all this sounds great, then you're probably asking yourself, well, how do I participate? How do I get started? And how do I submit a theme? Well, simple. If you're not already a partner, head on over to partners.shopify.com to sign up. From there, you'll be launched into your partner admin. And on the left nav, you'll see there's a themes option. Click on into there, and you'll be presented with the submission form. Now, the first thing that we really want new partners to experience when they're thinking about submitting themes to our merchants is to really go down the educational pathway. Learn about the tools that you're going to have to use, and even this new open source reference store that we have called Dawn, where you can actually use to base some of your themes off of. From here, once you learn about the tools, like the Shopify CLI and how to get started, and you think that you're actually experienced with actually building a theme, the next thing you're going to want to figure out is actually our requirements. Being part of the theme store is a bit of an elite group. It means that you've met a certain bar of quality. That means that partners that merchants can trust that they're going to get a good theme that's being kept up to date, has all the latest Shopify capabilities, and is built in such a way that it supports modern browsers, is accessible, is performant, and whatnot. So by being part of the theme store, it means that also we are imparting that badge onto you. So that means that merchants can feel comfortable that the theme you're offering also meets all those criteria and is of the highest quality in the market. But of course, in order to get there, it means that your theme has to meet these requirements as well. So make sure to familiarize yourself with all the theme requirements before you get started. And then once you think you're ready, all you have to do is just click on that submit button, and then off you are into submitting your theme. So from here, how it works is that we're going to ask you for your zip file. Now, if you were building out your theme, you would have had a development environment already set up. All you have to do is go into that development environment, just click, download the zip file from there, and upload it into here. Just read through all the legalese that you see here, click agree, and before you know it, you'll be launched into the listing page experience. Now, the listing page form will extract certain information out of the zip, including things like the theme name, the presets, the demo stores, and whatnot. But there'll be a lot more information that you have to enter to actually complete your listing. At the very top, you'll see that you have to enter some notes to help our review team understand, who is this theme built for? What was the intention? But also, how do I actually test it to make sure I understand, where are these features surfaced and whatnot? By providing good quality review notes, it will really help expedite the review and mean that you can either find out what you need to fix or get approved faster. So make sure to write some good review notes. Further down in the submission form, you'll see that you can actually put more details about what your actual listing content will look like, including you'll notice the background color of the highlight on the listing page. You saw in my example was kind of like a light red color. You can put whatever you want, as well as list all the features that form up your taxonomy that make up what is your theme all about. So basically, fill out this listing form, or even take a look at the listing form before you're ready to make sure you understand what's involved with filling it out. Once you're ready and you have everything all complete, just click on that blue Submit Theme button, and before you know it, your theme will be sent off for review to our highly qualified review team. From there, they're going to be taking a look at the theme, actually installing it on some stores to make sure that it actually works the way that it says, making sure that it has the features and functionality that you say, and making sure that it really is a good fit for the niche that you've built it for. If they have any comments for you, they'll be sending you off a quick email to make sure that you're all aligned. But if it's good to go, then you'll see it's approved, and before you know it, it'll be on the store. So with all that being said, let's let the journey begin. And I think basically that's all we had to say for today. So let us know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Sean, for showing us all about the Shopify Theme Store. In this part of the webinar, we're going to take a deep dive into the actual code of Shopify themes to learn more about our theme infrastructure and architecture and what developer tools are available that you can integrate into your workflow and help you get started building Shopify themes. First off, let's take a quick refresher of how Shopify themes are structured to identify what are the most critical components that you'll need to set up when you're developing your own themes, as well as take a look at some of the changes that have been introduced with Online Store 2.0. So here we are inside the Shopify code editor, where I have opened up our Dawn theme to take a look at the different files and directories which are inside our theme. So starting from the top directory, we have the layout directory, which contains one of the most important files within a theme, which is the theme.liquid file. So you can think of this file essentially as the master template, which is used to load every other page on a Shopify store. And you have some very important objects and variables in here, such as content for header, which loads some very important scripts such as Google Analytics on each page. And you also have our content for layout, which loads all of the dynamic content that's associated with a page on the online store. So this will load the product page, for example, or any other page. And we also see here that we have these section tags, and essentially these are including different sections, in this case header and footer, which will appear on every page, since this is the theme.liquid, in between the content for layout. Next, we have our templates directory, which contains templates that will load all of the individual page types of a online store. So for example, we have a template for product pages, product.json, and when we open this up, we can see that it is indicating different blocks and settings which are going to appear for the product page, and also saying which sections are going to appear and in which order will those sections appear. You'll also notice as well that this is a .json file. Previously, we were using .liquid files inside of our templates folder, where we could use HTML and liquid to render all of the different pages. But with Online Store 2.0, we've migrated to using .json files, where we can indicate exactly which sections appear by default. So in the case of product.json, we can see that we have a main product section appearing and a product recommendation section appearing by default. And then when we go to our online store editor, we're able to look at the different sections that are appearing here. So we have our main, which is product, and we have product recommendations. And now we're also able to add a section too, which is one of the new features of Online Store 2.0. And this is unlocked by these .json files. Following on from templates, we have our sections directory, and we've mentioned this in passing a little bit already, but this is where our different page components would appear. You can have a section for an individual page, as we saw with our main product section, which contains all of the components and elements that make up the product page. And you can also have individual components. So for example, newsletter component can be its own section. And the advantage of these sections is that they have their own individual settings that you can create, that then can be customized by a merchant on the online store editor. And you can also see as well that these settings are defined using JSON and included within the section file as well. We also have a snippets directory. These again are components, smaller and less complex than our sections. These are usually for smaller components which are used in various places that don't require settings from the merchant to populate. So for example, a social sharing snippet here will be used in various places within the theme. We also have an assets folder where you can contain all of your style sheets in CSS format, where you also contain here any JavaScript files that your theme is using too. In our config folder, we have the different settings files. In our case, the settings.json file is empty as we haven't made any changes to this theme, but you can also create your own default settings in the settings_json.schema file. And finally, we have our locales directory, which contains all of the different translation files that might be associated with your theme. And you will need a separate file for each one of the languages that your theme supports. So to take a look at what this looks like, you can see here it's arranged using JSON, and you can add in different translations for the different language settings that exist. It's important to note here that this won't affect any content or won't translate any content that a merchant uploads. So elements such as product descriptions will not be affected by this. This is more for the elements of your theme that buyers might be interacting with, such as the add to cart button, or if they are looking to interact with things like vendor, read more buttons on blog articles, for example. So now you can see all of the different directories which are contained within themes. Now let's take a look at how you can, as a developer, start interacting and making changes to these theme files. Next, we have our templates directory, which contains templates that will load all of the individual page types of an online store. So for example, we have a template for product pages, product.json, and when we open this up, we can see that it is indicating different blocks and settings which are going to appear for the product page, and also saying which sections are going to appear and in which order will those sections appear. You'll also notice as well that this is a .json file. Previously, we were using .liquid files inside of our templates folder, where we could use HTML and Liquid to render all of the different pages. But with Online Store 2.0, we've migrated to using .json files, where we can indicate exactly which sections appear by default. So in the case of product.json, we can see that we have a main product section appearing and a product recommendation section appearing by default. And then when we go to our online store editor, we're able to look at the different sections that are appearing here. So we have our main, which is product, and we have product recommendations. And now we're also able to add a section too, which is one of the new features of Online Store 2.0. And this is unlocked by these .json files. And if you're looking to learn more about how Liquid itself works as a templating language to render all of the different files that we looked at, I'd really recommend checking out the Shopify Partner Academy theme development courses to get a really good grasp and level up your skills at learning how Liquid works throughout all of the different aspects of a Shopify theme when you're building your own themes. Online Store 2.0 has introduced a new range of tools for developers who work with Shopify themes that help you to set up robust and reliable workflows. The Shopify CLI is now expanded to include theme-related commands to help you quickly scaffold, test, and share Shopify themes. The Shopify CLI allows you to connect a local theme to a live Shopify store, spin up your theme on a local server that live reloads when you make changes, and push or publish themes from your local environment to Shopify. You can also use the Shopify CLI to populate test data for your theme, including products, customers, and draft orders. The Shopify GitHub integration supports developer themes with version control and allows teams to collaborate safely when pushing changes to stores, as well as pulling code changes that a merchant or an app introduces. By connecting your GitHub user account or organization to the online store, changes are both pushed and pulled to a GitHub repo that is always in sync with the current state of selected themes. Theme check allows developers to scan theme files and projects for liquid errors and highlight best practices to follow. The errors that can be highlighted include liquid syntax errors, missing templates, performance issues, and more. To help you to debug theme issues quickly, error messages also contain a link to the failed checks documentation. Theme check is also bundled with the Shopify CLI tool, so you don't need to install it separately. Dawn is Shopify's first open source reference theme with Online Store 2.0 flexibility and a focus on speed. Dawn as a reference theme is an invaluable resource for developers looking to learn how to implement the new JSON templates and unlock sections in all pages, as well as how to leverage native CSS and HTML to create performant and lightweight themes. Now we'll be taking a look at the Shopify GitHub integration that allows you to sync a Shopify store with a theme on a GitHub repo. Once connected, changes are passed both from the Shopify store to the GitHub repo and from the GitHub repo to the Shopify store. So this means that developers have easier access to the up-to-date version of a client's theme, and it allows teams of developers to avoid code conflicts by implementing version control, as well as being able to review changes on GitHub before being pushed to a live store. To start off, let's do a demo of the Shopify CLI and specifically show how it can be used to download themes, to make preview or development themes on your local environment, make changes, preview those changes, and then push those changes to the live Shopify store. So if you haven't already installed the Shopify CLI tool, you can go to shopify.dev and find all of the instructions there, depending on what operating system you're using. And once it's installed, you'll be able to run all of the commands that you'll see me here running from your terminal or whatever command line interface you're using. So the first thing I'm going to do I have a completely empty directory here that I'll be testing out. And I'm going to first of all create a connection with a live Shopify store by using the Shopify login command. And what this will essentially do is allow us to connect with store data when we need to pull store data, and also to push changes to my Shopify theme. So you'll see here I have the Shopify login and I have the shop flag, and I indicate which shop URL I want to connect to. Once I run this command, I'm seeing some just internal messages here, but when I run Shopify login, you'll be given a URL that you can just copy and open in your browser, which is basically just asking you to authenticate your account. So once you have logged in and authenticated successfully, you'll be able to move on to the next step, which is actually getting a theme that we want to actually start editing. So for this, there's a few different options. You can connect to a theme that's already on GitHub. You can connect to a GitHub repo directly and clone that GitHub repo into your development environment using Shopify theme init. If you use Shopify theme init without indicating a GitHub repo that you want to clone, what will happen is that you will clone a new version of Dawn onto your machine, which is what we're going to go ahead and do here. It'll ask you to give it a name. I'm going to call it CLI test, and then you'll see it's very quickly it gets the version of Dawn on our public repo and it's cloned it into the CLI test that I've created here. So now I've downloaded the theme, and the next step is going to be actually creating a server. But I'm just going to quickly look at what's been downloaded. So if I open up this directory, I can see the CLI test theme that I've created. If I open that in my text editor, I can see here it's all of those theme directories and files that we looked at a little bit earlier. We can also see in the text editor that there's some warnings appearing. This is actually the theme check that's running in the background. That's part of the Shopify CLI, and what that is doing is highlighting some potential issues. So in this case, template is too many lines. There could be some syntax errors that you can highlight. So it's a very quick and easy way to see where you might need to make some changes. So I've generated my theme. The next step is now going to be running Shopify theme serve to actually generate a what we call development theme, which creates a server on our machine and takes the theme that we just downloaded and combines that with the store data for the store that we're connected to, and shows us a local instance of that. So the benefit of this is we can make quick changes to the theme, and we can see those being previewed live rather than pushing to Shopify and having to wait until it goes to Shopify before we can see what those real changes are looking like. So once this has fully loaded, it's going to generate a local URL for this local server that we can just again put into our browser. And once this loads, we will be able to see our live version of Dawn. So here, is exactly what we would expect to see. If I go into the collection page, I can see my collections have populated across from the store that we were connected to. Product pages are appearing exactly as we'd expect. So if I return to my text editor, and I just want to quickly test this out. So just above the header, for example, I'm going to use a very useful liquid object, which is template, which will give me outputs the name of the template on the page that we're viewing. So I've just saved that, and then if I go back, I can see here it's already populated across to the local version on the server that we're running. So you can just about see product there. When I go to my collection page, that will change to collection. Home, that changes to index. So I can see this is working. Things are appearing on the server as I change them on my text editor. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to stop the server, and I'm actually going to push the changes to my live store. So to push the changes, I'll be running Shopify theme push. When I run that command, it will ask me where I want to push those changes to. I don't want to push it to the live version of the theme on my store. I don't want to create any potential disruption. So I'm actually going to go to an unpublished version. Once I indicate which theme I want to push to, it will just simply check for which files need to be updated, and we'll push that. And you can see that's what's happening right here. So now when I go back to my development store, my admin, and I reload, and I can see Dawn testing, this is what I pushed it to, and if I customize it, yeah, now I can see that variable that I added is now appearing exactly as I expected. So yeah, this shows how the Shopify CLI can be set up to make these changes locally and then synchronize them back up to your live Shopify store. You can access the GitHub integration from the Shopify admin at the themes section in the theme library area, where we can click on add theme, select connect to GitHub, and then we are able to connect to specific accounts, choose a particular repo that you want. I have this repo set up already with a version of the simple theme, which I've just uploaded to my GitHub repo here. Now that when I click connect, essentially what it's doing is it is taking all of these directories and files and importing them to my Shopify store. So once that has imported, I can see that the information is populating here. It's letting me know the repo name, the branch name, and all of the information related to it. And to just demonstrate how this works, if a merchant makes a change to the theme from the theme editor, for example, if they add a new section of a feature collection and they save that change, you'll see on our GitHub repo, when we reload the page, that we see that this change that's been made on the theme editor has now been published or pushed onto our GitHub repo here. So this synchronization with the online store and GitHub is useful for a lot of reasons, especially around troubleshooting any errors, or if there's been bugs, we can very easily see what changes have been made by who and when and what files were affected with this very robust log on GitHub. So if you're working with teams of developers, or merchants are making changes to a theme as well, you can very, very quickly see what changes were introduced and when. In our case, we added a new section which updated the settings _data.json file, which updated this repo. So now I'm using the GitHub desktop app, but you can use regular Git commands. On my own local computer, I can now pull the correct or the live version of the main branch by just fetching the origin. I can see that one change has been made. That's the section that was added. Now when I pull this, my local theme version is up to date with GitHub and the connected store. So now I just want to make a minor change to this on my local computer just to test this out. So I will create a new branch with some very simple just demo change that I'm going to make. So now once I've created the branch, I can open the theme in my text editor. I'm just going to make a super simple change. I'm going to use our template variable again. I'm going to add it to the product.liquid in this case, just for simple demo purposes. Now once I've made that change and saved it, and I return to the GitHub app, it says it registers the change that I've made. I can add in a message, add a description, and then I can commit this to the branch, and now I can publish this branch to GitHub, where I can then merge that change from the branch into the main connected branch. And now when I return to the GitHub repo, I can find the branch that I was working on, and I can open a new pull request, which is basically showing the change that I'm introducing, which is adding this template variable, and it allows teammates to review the changes that I've made. I can assign a reviewer, and also it means that I can check that the changes that I'm making are not conflicting with any changes that are also being made by other people that might be working on this. So this is very useful when you're working on a development team where there might be a lot of different changes happening to the same theme. So now I can create my pull request. It will check if there are any conflicts with the main branch. In my case, there are none. Now people can come in, they can look at the files that I've changed, they can review the changes, and anything that needs to be adjusted can be revised. But I'm happy with this, so I'm going to merge the pull request from my branch that I created into the main branch, which is the one that's connected to Shopify. So now I just confirm the merge, and I can delete my branch. And now when we go back to our repo, we can see I've merged this pull request. And if we return to the Shopify store and we refresh, we should see, yeah, we've seen here that my change has been registered. And if we go into the online store editor, we can see here the template variable is outputting product as we would expect. So this gives you a good overview of what can be possible using the GitHub integration. It creates a much more robust workflow, especially when working with a development team when you're building your own Shopify themes. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. It's been great to see the chat, some familiar faces in there. Charlene, great to see you tuning in. And everyone else, thanks so much for tuning in all over the world. As you saw from my demo, my name is Liam. I'm a developer community manager here at Shopify. And I'm also joined here with Sean, who gave a great presentation on the theme store. But also here as well is Vince Dobson and Marcus Shoiga from the Themes Partnerships team here at Shopify. And we're just going to spend the next few minutes going through the questions that you have submitted. So again, thanks so much for submitting those questions. A lot of really great topics in there that we're looking forward to getting our teeth into and unpacking those a little bit more over the next couple of minutes. So guys, do you want to introduce yourselves very quickly?
Sure, I'll jump in first. My name is Marcus Shoiga, Senior Team Partners Manager here at Shopify. And yeah, excited that we have this opportunity now to talk to people about the theme store opening and getting themes submitted.
Great. Thanks, guys. Vince here, Vince Dobson. Thanks for joining us today. We're excited to finally have the theme store reopened, and we're looking forward to seeing what our community can bring to us. I've been at Shopify for about 4.5 years, and this is a big moment with Online Store 2.0 coming out. So we hope you're all excited, as excited as we are.
Great, and I'm Sean Haywood, the product manager for the theme store. Very excited to have you all here and go on this adventure together.
Brilliant. Well, great. So I think we'll just go straight into the questions that were submitted through Slido. Thanks, everyone, for submitting your questions. So the first one here is a question that's coming in here from Mutu, and it's around the new JSON templates and the different paradigms that will exist within themes. So his question is there any plan to deprecate liquid-based vintage themes in the future, or will both live together for a prolonged period of time? I can start with that if you like. The short answer is that both Liquid and JSON are going to coexist for the foreseeable future. Online Store 2.0 is a progressive enhancement, which means that this update doesn't break any previously created stores. The updates can be applied without interfering with existing features. And as a platform, we are committed to backward compatibility. So any stores that are using Liquid templates, there's no obligation for them to move to the new JSON formats. Indefinitely, we will still be supporting themes that use .liquid templating. There won't be any issues there, and we're not going to be forcing any merchants to update. It's completely up to their own choice if they want to start enabling JSON templates. And even what we'll probably see for a while is a lot of merchants having a hybrid model where some of their templates are .json and some are .liquid. And that's totally okay as well. There won't be any interference or any conflictions when people are using that model as well. Maybe a secondary point to that, though, is that while .liquid templates will be completely compatible and supported, themes in the theme store will all be migrated to using JSON templates by the end of the year, I believe. Is there anything else anyone wants to add to that?
I think you summed it up pretty nicely there, Liam. I'm sure if there's any other further questions that they can pop it into the chat if they want any more expansion on that.
For sure. And also, if there's any questions that we don't get to, or if you want to send us any follow-up questions, there's also the Theme Store Slack channel in the partner Slack that we just opened a couple of days ago. We're able to continue the conversation as well. But I'm going to just move on to the next question. This is on. This is from Vincent, and he's asking, is it possible to submit themes to the Shopify Theme Store that use a combination of JSON templates and Liquid templates? Maybe Marcus, if you want to take that one.
Yeah, sure. Happy to jump on that one. Hi, Vincent. Yeah, listen, there's a list of JSON templates that your theme has to contain. And these you can find with all the other theme store requirements in the online developer documentation. I think those particular ones are under the templates sections and block requirements section. So just pop in there, you'll find the JSON templates that have to be in your theme file. But listen, the majority of pages will require JSON templates, but customer account pages, for example, can be Liquid templates. So even if you want to see an example of this, you can refer to Dawn because the customer pages in there use Liquid templates. So hopefully that answers that question.
Great. Next question we have here is around maybe some of the more complex scenarios for developer workflows. It's a question from Brenda. Is there a recommended development workflow for Shopify or for Online Store 2.0 while using a JavaScript framework like React or Vue.js that needs a bundler or compiler like Webpack? From Brenda. So yeah, I can speak to that. There's a few different options there. We do have, and I'll drop this doc into the chat here. And it's a doc around different best practices for version control and also for organizing different branches. If you're using different deployment methods or using bundling tools, there's a few different strategies that you can work with around how to organize different branches. But we don't have one specific workflow that we do recommend. But in that doc, we show a few different strategies. But it is possible to use the Shopify GitHub integration if you're using a specific deployment branch acting as your main production code branch, and then deploying code that's compiling off the master into that branch. but that's described in a little bit more detail in that doc. But also, you can also look at maybe other community developed tooling. I know that the theme developer community is really collaborative in open sourcing some of their tooling. If you've been following some of the Kelly plus Kelly streams that Thomas Kelly and Kelly Vaughan have been doing, they've been sharing a lot of insights on how they have more complex developer workflows. So those are definitely worth checking out as well on our Shopify developers YouTube channel. So I'm going to jump into the next question. Sean, maybe you want to answer this. It's related to the theme store. This is from an anonymous person. They're asking, can I change the price for a theme after publishing?
For sure, yeah. So pricing does have some restrictions. Obviously, we want it to be a competitive marketplace, and we're definitely not looking for like a race to the bottom in terms of pricing or anything like that. So effectively, the price has to be set between $100 and $500, and it has to be in $10 increments. So we won't see prices like $121 and 95 cents or anything like that. And it is okay to experiment with changing prices while you're trying to find the product market fit. You don't need to go through another round of review or anything to that effect in order to change the price. One thing to be cautious of, though, is that obviously if the price suddenly changes dramatically, while merchants are buying your theme, that, it might leave a bad taste to some merchants, right? Imagine you bought the theme for $100 and then the next day it's $400, or vice versa, I should say. In those type of scenarios, you do have to be careful whether or not you get refund requests, whether or not you get some bad reviews posted as a result of that. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, definitely it's okay to experiment with pricing. Just keep the merchant experience in mind as well.
Cool. Thanks for that, Sean. And we have another sort of theme store, theme submission related question here. Vince, I might pull you into this one.
Great.
And this is a question from Phil. And he's asking, can anyone submit a theme for review, or do you need to be a pre-approved seller?
Thanks for your question, Phil. So actually anyone can apply. So any Shopify partner through their partner dashboard could go under the theme tab and submit their theme file. That goes directly to the theme review team, who will review and then provide you some feedback through email. So again, we're looking for all backgrounds and levels of developers with different levels of experience. And in the past, we did have limitations that only design experts could submit, but it's no longer like that. It's wide open. But we do caution, take your time looking through our requirements, making sure that you're meeting all those requirements and QAing your themes to the fullest extent before submitting to our review team. It will make everyone's job easier, and will likely you'll receive an answer quicker, and you'll potentially get through the process in a smoother fashion.
Brilliant. Yeah. No, thanks, Vince. I think that definitely gives a lot of insight into how people can think about submissions and how open it is at the moment. Actually, our highest voted question is again from Phil again, and I'll open this up to whoever wants to answer. But Phil is asking, how many themes will you be accepting into the theme store?
I can probably start with that. Effectively, we want to be the home to all high quality performant themes that will get our merchants started fast and make their business succeed. So we don't have any cap in place for how many themes we want to have. If you pass the requirements and you've done it with quality, you can get into the theme store, as Vince was mentioning. It's really about the more quantitative side of passing those requirements rather than a quantity in terms of how many themes we'll have. Then on the theme store side, our job will be to really connect merchants with the right theme. And so it will be really important for you to, build with purpose, build towards a niche that's going to solve, for a particular vertical of merchant or whatnot. So that, really it's not just a generic kitchen sink theme that can solve anyone's needs with a little configuration. Really just try to think about, what is a good niche? And then how can I make it so that I can help merchants get started who are in that niche? I can get started quickly without having to really play around with configuring the theme too much. So that will really be our goal in terms of like getting themes in there and really setting them up so that we can connect merchants with the themes that will get them started the fastest.
Yeah, that's really great advice. I'm actually going to throw as well another link into the chat. I think that expands on that a little bit more, which was a recent case study with team partners Safe as Milk, and how they really niched into a specific area with their when they were doing merchant interviews and looking at how they could assist merchants who are selling both online and offline, and really focusing on that particular merchant category. So there's definitely a lot of inspiration to get from that. And so that's a blog post really worth checking out. Just dropped into the chat there. There's another question here from Michael, who's asking, when will the previously mentioned master pages and section templates be implemented? So if people on this stream are not familiar with the master pages, this relates back to a earlier iteration of Online Store 2.0. I think we're calling it the new Online Store design experience that we had in beta, I believe around the end of 2019. Where we were looking at how to implement different ways of expanding the online store. After testing this, both internally and externally, we actually decided to go into a different direction, one that was more developer and merchant friendly. So we're actually not going to be releasing that master pages model, and the main feature set of Online Store 2.0 as it is now is what we'll be focusing on. I have another question here. A few have actually just come in. One is, I think it's a question that's sort of been asked in a few different ways in different areas during the stream. And that's, can we use Dawn as the base start of our own theme? Or maybe it's something that we can just discuss of the value of Dawn as a reference theme. What can developers expect to use Dawn for?
I can probably start with a little bit. Like, yeah, so as much as, we want our merchants to be able to get started fast, we also want you, our partners, to be able to get started fast as well with building your great products. And Dawn is a great avenue to which to do that. It can be a backbone to your theme, that really gets you started fast with the right skeleton. That's also a good basis for a highly performant theme as well. That being said, so you can definitely base your theme off of Dawn and submit it for review, and it will go through the review process. Now, that being said, though, it is important to note that you do need to make a material enough difference to Dawn so that it really becomes your own. Like, if you just change the color and call it fawn, that's not going to be enough to really get through our review process. But if you can really make it your own, apply it to a certain niche, go out and talk to merchants and understand, hey, turns out people in, the restaurant industry are really needing, specific sections to really get started quickly. You can build those into Dawn or your version of Dawn, and then, make it your own. And then you can actually submit that. So yeah, Dawn is definitely a great start, but it does need to be your own theme in the end when you submit it.
If I could just add a little bit on top of that as well is, just in thinking beyond as well, getting listed on the theme store, there's also the maintenance aspect and updating as well that needs to be factored in. So, get familiar with the various feature sets and stuff that are pre-built into Dawn, because being listed on the theme store will also require that additional feature sets and so forward as they're being pushed out by Shopify, may be mandatory and need to be built into the theme. So understanding how those are integrated into the theme and how they work well with that particular theme will be pretty important as well along those lines too.
I think what I've seen a lot happening too in the developer community is people really taking a deep dive into Dawn and almost taking different components apart, looking at the decisions why certain approaches were used, and then looking at how that can then be migrated across or used as an inspiration for theme development otherwise. So I think the Partner Slack online store 2.0 channel, there's a lot of great conversations going on in there where developers are actually just essentially taking apart Dawn and just looking at all of the different things in isolation. And I think that's a really great way to approach Dawn. Do spend time taking things apart. Look at it for inspiration, and if there are certain aspects to it that you want to include in your theme, and you want to expand those, I think that's a really great place to start.
Just the last point there. So Dawn's actually not available in the theme store yet, but it will be in the near future. But it is there for you guys to use and use as an example, especially for the feature sets. I think it's quite useful.
Yeah, great point. Another question here is, can you suggest how best to ask brands and merchants for permission to use their content in themes? That might be something, Marcus, Vince, that you've seen previously in the past with existing partners.
Absolutely, working with theme partners, I know that this is it's a difficult one because obviously you want to represent your theme with demo stores that are good reflections of whatever industry, vertical, merchant or customer base that the theme is aimed at. So obviously, compiling that full with a catalog of great images, great products, and so on and so forth can be a challenge. What we found is obviously reaching out to existing merchant clients you may have is one way, or reaching out to other merchants that may have a great product range that reflects the industry or vertical you're targeting with the theme. I mean, that's one possible approach, but what we would advise is always to make sure that you have some means to prove your project's viability, such as pre-acceptance to the Shopify Theme Store, a really strong portfolio of existing work or client work, because that obviously helps you build a trust, and you can showcase your ability with that particular merchant. Another means, which is one that's possibly even more advisable because it gives you more control, is to actually create your own product range, as this means you have full design and presentational control. It also means that you can focus the demo store more specifically on the target audience and industry vertical that your theme is catered for, rather than being solely dependent on what is being supplied to you by the permissions granted by some other merchant. So hopefully that goes some way towards answering that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really great. I think it's great to look around and see what is available to different to sort of showcase the different aspects of your theme. There is another really good question here. I think we can probably touch on it a little bit now, but we also do have another webinar next week. I'll just add in that registration page that will be covering this question in much more detail. But maybe we can just talk about a high level overview of this. How does it look, what does the flow look like when you're publishing a theme in the Shopify Theme Store? How much time does it take? And that question's from Vladimir.
You want me to touch on that, Marcus? I can start. Maybe you can elaborate.
Yeah, go for it, Vince. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the actual time of a submission from start to finish, that really depending on how much effort is put in to begin, to make sure that you're meeting all the requirements. I'd say the quickest turnaround would be like a 2-week period, and that is if our theme review team doesn't have a large number of work ahead of them. So it could really depend. We'd say at least 2 weeks, potentially a month, and that all depends on how busy our theme review team is. So it will be on a first come first serve basis. So keep that in mind.
That's great. Yeah. Marcus, is there anything else you want to add to that?
Just on top of that, I just saw another question pop in there as well. Is the Shopify Theme Store, are we looking for study cases like we did before? No, is the short answer to that. Basically, what we are looking to do is to ensure that the requirements are there and it's quite detailed of a checklist to make sure that you're meeting all of these elements in terms of accessibility, performance, feature sets, and so on and so forth. But in terms of things like, the study cases, concept, and so on and so forth, we're leaving that open to the community to see what you come up with. So those type of subjective restrictions and blockers that might have been in place before have been removed in favor of a more open submission process.
That's great to hear. There's a lot more flexibility available for submissions now. Another question we will again be covering in a little bit more detail next week is around updating themes. Sasha is wondering, how do updates of themes work in the theme store? Marcus, I know you might want to look at that. I know as well there's also a blog post where he went into detail on that, so I'll post that in the chat as well.
And like that, I will be going into a bit more detail on that in the next webinar. But essentially, once your theme is accepted, you'll have your theme listing within the partner dash. There's an option to edit the listing itself. Now, there'll be obviously two main types of updates that come through. One that are, partners motivated, and one that are required by Shopify. Within the partner ones, they generally tend to be maintenance, bug fixes, maybe feature requests or enhancements you might make to your theme. So that would obviously be off your own initiative. And then there's obviously the ones that you're required to by Shopify, that be it a new feature set or an update. So what we do recommend is that anything that's called not a breaking change, that's going to edit variables or it's going to change the format of a theme, that you keep those separate from any just general fixes, maintenance, or bugs that are being sent through to resolve any issues. You just literally fire the new zip file through. It'll be reviewed by the review team. They'll make sure that it's meeting the standards and it's operating correctly. Again, we need to stress QA your themes, make sure they are in the best condition and to be fully tested before submitting, and that way that they will get through quicker. And then that'll be released then onto the theme store to replace the version that's there, and you'll get an email notification to let you know that it's been updated. But again, I'll be going into more detail in the next webinar.
Great, and I've also included the blog post as well that also describes that maintenance and updating. Question here on, I guess, around like marketing on the theme store. Sean, maybe you'll have an insight into this. Marianne is asking, do we have any insights into keywords that are searched by merchants on the theme store?
I'm not sure there's a whole lot of insights to share on that one. But like, for example, we do know that industry plays a key thing. Usually a merchant will come in knowing what industry they're in. And as such, we do usually want to differentiate themes by industry. It's a very common thing. So for example, a theme that is targeted towards food and beverage is probably going to have like a section related to nutrition chart or something like that. Versus one for apparel, it might have a section more for like a sizing chart and stuff like that. So inevitably, people would come in knowing what industry they're in. So they might say, hey, Shopify themes apparel, things like that. And they kind of know what they're coming in for. But this will be something that you can also play with. We do have a tracking pixel for Google and Facebook that we put in, so that you can actually start to see who's coming to your listing page on the theme store. So that would also be a way for you to kind of get a sense for who's your demographic. And then, of course, we're hoping to expand on that to give you even more information. But yeah, I think that's what I can share for now.
Cool. No, that's definitely super valuable information. And I'm sure as the theme store evolves, we'll be able to unlock a lot more insights for partners. So yeah, I think we'll probably start to wind down in a couple of minutes. There is just one or two other questions here that we might go through quickly. One is on from Anonymous. Can you show us a live example of the schema and what has changed? So I think maybe the best way to look at the new schema, particularly for the JSON templates, is on our developer documentation. First of all, we do have a great doc. I'm just going to post it in here to the chat, and we'll also be sending out an email as well after this webinar with a survey and also including some docs. But essentially, yeah, our docs are probably the best place to look at what the difference is between the JSON templates and the Liquid templates. You can also look to Dawn again as a great model to see how this looks like in the wild. And I can also share as well that we are launching a blog post next week that will be diving into almost like an anatomy of JSON templates and taking those all apart. So we do have that documentation there, blog coming out, and Dawn being a very good, valuable resource for that too. Maybe this will be the final question that we'll end on for today. And it's again from Anonymous, and they're asking, can we know more about the Lighthouse action on GitHub on Dawn theme, and how can that be set up? Not totally sure. I obviously related to performance, but yeah, maybe Marcus, you can just speak around performance and that, kind of the emphasis around that for themes moving forward on the theme store.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, performance is a huge impacting feature for merchants for the success of their stores. So this is something that we really started to focus on over the last sort of 12 to 18 months in particular, particularly with themes, apps, and everything within our ecosystem in general, I suppose. The best thing I can really do is just relate you again back to the documentation. There is a certain amount of information there around the performance scores and the expectations, and obviously as you're building out your theme, you can reference Dawn to see how certain items were integrated and performance enhanced through that. Yeah, I mean, the review team themselves will be leaning on the likes of Google Lighthouse and the general sort of page speed systems that are out there to ensure that the performance factors are being met. So by scoring high in those areas, you can be pretty much guaranteeing that you're hitting the right flags.
That's great. Thanks so much. There's definitely a lot of benefits to ensuring that your theme is performant, and will be providing a lot more insights on how you can do that. Again, Dawn being a really good reference to look at how to leverage web native functionality so that you can drop down on your reliance on JavaScript that might be causing a little bit more performance issues. So, and thankfully as well, it's an area that there's a lot more research going into. So I think developers are going to just be more and more empowered to make performance gains on their themes. So yeah, I think we're going to wind up. But if you want to continue the conversation, please join our partner Slack org. You can access it from your partner dashboard, and you can continue the question there. We will be going through any of the questions that might not have been covered. We'll try to answer those in the Slack channel there. So definitely join, continue the conversation there. Also, I will post in our event for next week. So please do register and join us again. We will love to have you there. And additionally, the recording for today in the full will be uploaded to YouTube. So look out for that on our Shopify Devs YouTube channel. So yeah, thanks so much for joining.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, folks. See you next time.